Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation on the amendment.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I listened closely to my colleague across the way's words. And words are, she's correct, words are important. And words are very much relevant to this debate because we're talking about BC's Human Rights Code. She shared concerns that maybe people who had a health issue might not be covered in the code. Well, I can assure her a quick Google, a quick check on the internet, a quick conversation would tell her that indeed they are. And so if that was a concern, I would hope that members would do research before coming into the debate, because these words matter. And to suggest that people with health conditions aren't covered by the code doesn't tell the reality of what actually is covered. So she wanted clarity on words, the Conservatives wanted clarity on words, and they said we need to be clear about who's covered and who's not, yet their amendment completely eliminates who is protected by BC's Human Rights Code. It makes what was explicit invisible. So if the concern was we don't know who's covered, she's done exactly that through her amendment. She's deliberately taken out those people who are covered. And she suggests that, well, maybe more people should be added to the list. Well, if she supports the Human Rights Code, I urge her to support it, not to bring forward an amendment that would take out support for the covered grounds of discrimination in the Human Rights Code, or move an amendment to suggest more people should be covered in the Human Rights Code. But that's not what this is about, Honourable Speaker. That's not what this is about. Of course, hate against anybody is wrong. But you know what, Honourable Speaker? We need to be specific when we're talking about discrimination, because people feel discrimination in different ways. I'm currently being attacked online because I'm gay and I have a family. Those are protected grounds in the Human Rights Code. This amendment would eliminate those grounds from this motion. This amendment would suggest that race is gone, that religion is gone. Let me go through. Indigenous identity, race, color, ancestry, place of origin, religion, marital status, family status, physical or mental disability, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, and age. All of these are currently in BC's Human Rights Code, and I don't know why the BC Conservatives can't endorse those covered grounds. It doesn't make any sense to me, Honourable Speaker. By trying to get us to amend this motion to eliminate those specifically covered grounds that are in the law, it's sending a very clear message. The clear message is we won't stand up for each one of those protected grounds, because if they did, they would support them being in here. They would support them being in the motion. But by voting to eliminate them and trying to get the House to take out the protected grounds in the BC Human Rights Code on a motion specifically about supporting the BC Human Rights Code, they're being clear, I believe, that they don't want the protected grounds to be supported in the Human Rights Code, otherwise they would support them. That to me is a problem. That to me is a big problem. It's saying we could move an amendment to say, why don't we just eliminate the whole thing and say we all love each other? We'll move a motion to say we all love each other and we're against people being mean to each other. Because that's basically what this comes down to if you support this amendment. And I like that idea, but the fact is that when one specific group, and this is something maybe some Conservatives don't understand, is that when there's a specific group targeted for who they are, you need a targeted response. You need a response that actually stands up for that person. And I think the tribunal does that. The current chair was elected or appointed by a former government, not this one, so to suggest there's some sort of partisanship going on. Not correct. Again, trying to muddy the waters of human rights. The tribunal stands up so that when you get denied a job because of your race, that you have a place to go, that you have an ability to stand up for yourself. So again, the Conservative motion eliminates the tribunal for consideration here. Again, why is that? Probably because of a fellow named Barry Neufeld and One BC trying to eat the Conservatives' lunch in terms of which party is more radical. Well, Barry Neufeld, he targeted staff in the Chilliwack School District by calling them things like pedophile, by saying they were groomers trying to grab children up. This is not somebody you want to be associated with. You don't want to be on the cheering squad like One BC is, but it seems this party has been dragged so far to the One BC view that they have to try and suggest they are much the same. And it's wrong. And the member, she says, I'm obsessed. Well, it was her candidate who's online right now trying to defame me. It's her candidate, not me. And it's gross.
Just a minute, Minister. Recognizing the member from Vancouver-Kilchina.
Here, I'm being repeatedly now attacked personally and subjected to hatred by a member on the other side of the House. And it's ironic that right now we are discussing hatred directed at people when I'm engaging in my job as a legislator and representing points of view in this province that want to be represented. So if you can't catch, then don't pitch. I would like this member to retract the personal comments he keeps hurling at me in the context of making his, whatever he's doing today, this defense of comments on this motion. This is way off topic, and he's using this as an opportunity to once again come after me. And it has become an obsession. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. Before we continue debate on this motion, I want to remind all members of the importance of respectful and orderly conduct in the chamber. The topic of the motion will understandably elicit strong views, and I expect all members to approach their remarks with care. Minister for Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation continues.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's unfortunate when I talk about racism and hate, the member always feels I'm talking about her. I didn't mention her, didn't discuss her.
Just a minute, member. Just a minute. I have to recognize you before you speak. So, member for Vancouver-Kilchina, do you have a point of order?
Yes, Madam Speaker. This member cannot have it both ways. Personally attacking me in the legislature, using my name, the name of my party, pointing at me, looking at me, sneering at me, and then turn around and say that he says that he's not directing comments at me. It's very obvious what he's doing. And once again, if you can't catch, then don't pitch.
Okay, member, that's not a point of order. Recognizing the Minister for Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. So just to say that I speak against this motion, and I do it for a couple of reasons. Very specifically, if you're going to stand up against hate and discrimination, you need to know who's being hated and discriminated against. And it says it in the code, and that's why we have it in this motion, which I don't understand why the House Leader for the Conservatives would move an amendment to delete the protected grounds in the code. It doesn't make sense, Honourable Speaker. When you say you stand for human rights, you're explicit on what those human rights are. You don't say it just to everybody, but we're not going to be clear about who we're talking about and how. The member wants to heckle me now? No, the member is heckling me now because I'm speaking to her amendment, an amendment which eliminates the protected grounds from this motion. Very specifically, the amendment...
Minister, hold on. Minister has the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very specifically, her motion deletes all the words after Human Rights Code. And what are those words, Honourable Speaker? The protected grounds in the Human Rights Code. So let's not pretend this amendment does anything different than deleting Indigenous identity, race, color, ancestry, place of origin, religion, marital status, family status, physical or mental disability, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, and age. Those are grounds in the Human Rights Code. So specifically, if somebody's discriminated against from getting a job because of their race, their family status, if they're discriminated against because of housing, so they can't get a suite or they get evicted because they have a mental disability, or maybe they're transgender, or maybe they're old or young, or something that somebody doesn't like, and they make that decision based on their identity, their ancestry, their religion. Maybe the person doesn't want to provide them a health service because they're married or they're not married. Those are the protected grounds in the Human Rights Code, and that's what we're asking the House to support. And right now, this amendment does not support those grounds. It eliminates those grounds from this motion. So I will not be supporting this motion, and I urge members not to support it because we should be explicit in what we support. And this actually obfuscates, this hides, this eliminates the code so we can say we all support everybody, everything's fine, all things are all equal, but they're not, Honourable Speaker, and the member knows that the member knows that there are specific people who are targeted for hate worse than others. That's why we have protected grounds in the Human Rights Code. That's why we need to stand up for those grounds, not create smoke screens to hide because a party is not united on supporting the Human Rights Code, because the Conservatives do not support the Human Rights Code and do not support the tribunal. Otherwise, they would stand and support this motion. This is a basic motion. Our motion, but the amendment actually eliminates the guts of this thing to replace them with, we all just get along. Everybody should just get along. We should all say we don't like hate. Well, that's an easy thing to say. It should be. But it should also be easy to say you don't support hate against transgender people. You don't support hate against Indigenous people. You don't support hate against somebody who's got a disability. You don't support a hate against somebody because of their religion. These are all things that should be easy to stand up and support. So I don't understand why the Conservatives would not support these grounds and why they're voting or seeking to vote on an amendment that would eliminate them from this motion. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.